There we go. Hi, I'm Resident of Colwood for YouTube, and joining me tonight, or this evening, is Patrick McCray, author of the Dark Shadows Daybook. We're here to discuss Dark Shadows, a year in review for the end of 2021. So, Patrick, man, what do you think?
I would say that excluding 1971 when the show went off the air and one of the movies came out, and then excluding 1991 and 2012, this is in its own way one of the biggest years for Dark Shadows. But it's a collection of stuff that flies semi under the radar, I think, for some very specific reasons. And it was a remarkable year for the cast members we lost. We lost 4 or 5 major cast members, each of which has a strong following. Right. So it was a hell of a year. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost, for those who don't know, we lost Dana Malay, who played the Phoenix in Dark Shadows. We lost Robert Rodin, who played Adam this year. We lost Christopher Penock, who played Sebastian Shaw and the leader of Leviathan.
Jeb
Hawks, right? Sorry. And I may have trouble pronouncing this guy's first name. I think it's Geoffrey or Jeffrey Scott.
Jeffrey.
Okay.
That's English spelling of Jeffrey, just like Jeffrey.
Okay, my bad. I apologize. Jeffrey Scott, who played my favorite villain, Scott Robson.
Okay. So, talk a little bit more, and then we got to come back to Jeffrey Scott.
Yeah, I think with Dana Malay, and I want to talk about Dana Malay first. She was Dan Curtis's first monster.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what you meant there for a second. Yes, okay, continue.
She was the Phoenix. Here was this woman. You had asked me once if I felt that sort of sorry for her a bit, I think. Because she was a mother trying to get her son back. And I had never really viewed it that way. And then when I went back and watched it, I sort of got what you were asking me, because I could sort of sense some of her pain of wanting her son.
Sure. And, since it's a monster that never existed, as opposed to the cast of The Facts of Life, which we recently saw a reunion of, because she's a monster that never existed, they could play fast and loose on what she was, and it was a real original. And so she certainly wants her son back. She wants him for some of this ritual, and I think she misses him. So that's you have to decide whether or not she's being genuine in a familial sense or not. And it's more interesting, and it's much more painful in the right way that soap operas are supposed to be, if she's really missing her son.
Right. She's very, she gets put over really well by Joan Bennett, because up until that point, no one had touched Joan's character. And when that happens, it sort of gives you this unpredictable feeling of what's next, who's next. And I think that's done so well by the show and her. She's willing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, who was next?
Right. Right. I thought really this is where I know people might say, well, Victoria was in danger with Matthew Morgan. I guess, but to me, this is where I felt Vicky was in the most danger prior to 1795.
The Phoenix?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sure. Other than that, she's going to be in danger of, not getting the right creamer in her coffee or something. But I think that's the greatest peril that Vicky deals with. The ghosts are just kind of the occasional nuisance. And when Carolyn comes home from a date and they have one of those things late night where they sit up and talk about boys, there's a chance Carolyn's going to be so drunk she'll vomit on the bed. But I think those are the biggest dangers that Vicky lives with. What I was going to say in terms of who comes next is Jason Mcguire.
Yeah.
And that just puts Liz into even further peril. Really, I think that's her first and last really great storyline that she has just to herself, pretty much.
There's Robert Rodin, who, for a big guy, can really, even if he doesn't get to speak right away, I love his character of Adam. What were your thoughts on Robert Rodin's character?
I think if we look at Frankenstein's monsters,
right,
of which he is one, I will say with a controversy that I don't mind stepping into, that he's the best. He is actually the best. Karloff's performance is brilliant. It's probably one of the 10 greatest performances in all of cinema, along with Groucho Marx playing God in Skidoo. But Karloff suffers from the fact that really he only plays the creature 3 times, I think, maybe 4 times, and that's it. He doesn't really play the creature that much, and those movies are so short that you don't, I think, really get to see him grow. You get to see his potential for growth in Bride of Frankenstein, but didn't go anywhere else. So what Robert Rodin was able to do, I think was put a really brilliant, observant Stanislavskian performance into this character, and he got to develop him, to a point of pretty considerable wisdom, but still undercut with this tragic flaw. So I think his sensitivity everywhere down the line is a magnificent, leads to a magnificent performance as every phase of that character. And no one else got anything like that. And, the Adam storyline takes a real drubbing on the show. It's not that popular. It goes on for a long time. You've got to wonder about his toilet training, but it doesn't get into that. I think that would have been Stokes' job largely. Right. And people just want it to go someplace else. Mm-hmm. I enjoy every Adam episode. I really do. It's a fantastic performance. And there are a lot of different ways to watch the show. And once you just slow down and take the episodes for what they are and enjoy them for what they are, rather than be in this constant hurry to get to the next storyline, it's a really, really, really good telling.
Right.
Really terrific job. So
I think Adam's storyline is a lot of things. It's about not just the battle for a man's soul, but the battle to shape a man's soul, where you have Nicholas and Barnabas, who are sort of, and then you have Professor Stokes. Mm-hmm. So you have, and Carolyn likes him, but she doesn't love him, and he's sort of attracted to her, and who wouldn't be, You
don't think she loves him at one point?
I think she cares for him. I'll give a great example, sort of the way my sister-in-laws care for me. So she sort of cares for him in a meaningful way, but
you're not saying that you have some sort of love for you.
No.
I can call your wife. Hang on.
My wife's in the other room.
Jack, the cat's out of the bag now. You just put on the green sweater.
Oh my gosh. But I think she really cares for him deeply. Carolyn to me is more complex than Adam is, because
I would hope so.
Because Adam Adam does want love. You know, like any creature. He wants love and he wants to find it, but he has to find it on his own terms. And I think that's something really by the time the Adam arc ends, really, I do truly believe Robert Rodin's character walked away knowing that, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the story probably ended vaguely prematurely. My suspicion, this is an interesting way to watch the show, is that every time they introduce a new major villain character, right. I think the assumption is that they might end up a permanent cast member. Right. After Barnabas. Right. You know, I think they had that intention for Jeb. I think, or that contingency. I think they had that contingency for Adam too, because the story just kind of stops. Right. You know, it's like, oh well, we got to pay Don Briscoe a little bit more because he's going to say things. So, Robert, we love you. Now, the big issue with me and Robert Rodin, for one thing, where was Robert Guidra? But the other issue with Robert Rodin is that they never brought him back.
Right.
And I don't know why. Because he would have made, you could have done a lot of interesting stuff with him running around 1897. You know, he could have played Sky Rumson.
Yeah. I think he could have done a lot of things. You talk about a character who should have been brought back. Adam's one of them. Do you hope we get, I know they'd have to recast him, obviously, but do you hope we get Adam in the sequel series?
Well, for one thing, I don't know if we'll ever see a sequel series.
Right.
It's been a long time. And, you know, these Hollywood projects either have momentum or they don't.
Right.
And, you know, unless it's this, you know, like the script to Anchorman floated around Hollywood for a long time before it got made. But a pilot for a TV series is a whole other story. Yes, of course I do. I think the danger is that it will be a couple of wink, wink, nod, nod, passing references.
Right.
Rather than, you know, something really of substance.
If you had to maybe recast Adam today, who would you pick?
B. Arthur's dead. Gosh, you know, I think you have to go with an unknown. I think, well, no, cast Doug Jones. Doug Jones could do anything. Cast Doug. You know Doug Jones?
Yeah, he actually he did this movements for the Silver Surfer in Rise of the Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four 2 Rise of the Silver Surfer. And he was in Hocus Pocus and stuff like that. So, yes.
He's I think he was in The Shape of Water. He plays creature from Black Lagoon, basically, in Shape of Water. He's the Baron Aphonas on What We Do in the Shadows TV show. He's very funny on that. And he's essentially the Spock character on Star Trek Discovery. He's although there is a Spock character in Star Trek Discovery, so I shouldn't say that. But he plays Saru, and a warrior bird man. You know, like every show has.
Right. If this had been a lot sooner, if they had done something a lot sooner to bring Adam back, I would have picked Mark Calloway, who played The Undertaker in wrestling. But I'm with you. Doug Jones would be he'd be perfect. But
you need an actor. You really, really need an actor. There's a big guy I saw on TV the other day. It's the fellow who plays Ilya Kuryakin in the new Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie. It's a very underrated movie. And he'd be good. He'd be good because he's enormous for one thing, and he's a good, sensitive, thoughtful actor.
I think all these actors are underrated, but how underrated is Christopher Penock, the late Christopher Penock?
Yeah, I mean, not underrated by Dark Shadows fans,
right?
But you know, Penock had stories about, you know, always kind of being number two to somebody. The same story that Gary Sandy has. You know, I think Penock was up for a lot of parts, And according to him, his performances in the auditions were too good. Not that he was a brilliant actor, but sometimes they just wanted a football quarterback, and he's giving this nuanced method portrayal, and that might have done him in. I think those producers really made a bad call when they did that. A really good actor can do anything, and they should have stuck with him. I mean, he is. There's a handful of actors on the show, and I'm almost afraid to mention them because I'll leave somebody out or whatever. But you look at them and you think, my God, you could have really, with the right agent and someone who knows what movies are going to be hits, so a convenient time traveler, you could have been a great success. Don Briscoe, if he hadn't, I think Don Briscoe as Han Solo is a great casting choice. I would love to see that. He's kind of the thinking / non-pot smoking man's Harrison Ford. Yep. You've got Christopher Pennock, definitely. I can't really think of a leading man part, a regular American leading man part for his generation that he wouldn't have been better than whoever they got. And I really mean that. Pennock actually came in second to one of the other people on our list for today, but he for a show. I'll tell you about that in a second. I can talk about this a little more now, I guess. He said he really admired David Selby, but he always felt like Selby was just a little bit better at everything. Yeah. And he kind of carried that around, that Selby was, and he really said it as a sincere compliment. There was nothing, obsequious about it, Right. But that kind of neurotic inferiority complex that this Greek god had, I think, is just one of the most interesting and endearing and human things about him. So, and underrated as a writer and just as a thinker and historian. He's an example of, both he and James Storm are an example of the best that an actor should be. In the, not only are they good at the craft, but they are cerebral, thoughtful people with strong opinions and a great sense of political and situational awareness.
It's crazy because a lot of the Dark Shadows actors who are gone, who acted in the 60s, you see all these Marvel roles and these DC roles, they'd be perfect for them. I could see Christopher Pennock be Captain America.
One of the first daybook things, he'd be a great Captain America. He'd be terrific. Yeah. One of the first daybook things that I did was I recast the Marvel Universe with those performers, and it was an early enough piece. I think it's June 2012 or 2016. It was an early enough piece that it didn't make it into the book or anything, but I may have to find it and put it in the next book, just that little bit, because it started out with Joan Bennett as Galactus.
I like that. I like Joan Bennett could be Galactus. She was.
I wouldn't tell her she couldn't be. You talk. I'm going to look up that list. Tell me more about the people we miss and why.
To me, Jeffrey Scott, man, as Sky Rumson, by God, there's moments of Dark Shadows that just punch you in the gut. And Jeffrey Scott, Sky Rumson, him turning heel, they don't do it wrong. Everything's done right. It's the most one of the most gut punching moments. My jaw was on the ground when they're
at that moment.
Yeah, when they come back to Sky Rumson's house and Carolyn's sort of getting scared by the wind and stuff, by the noises. He pulls up and it's sort of like I believed him. I believed that he just came back on his own, that he meant to call Angelique. He got me. hook, line, and sinker.
Really?
That's how great Jeffrey Scott was as a salesman to me, because he got me. So I'm like, oh, I believe him. I don't smell any suspect. Then it's like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, he was a terrible guy. Here's the thing about Jeffrey Scott. He became a really, really, really fantastic actor.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no doubt that he was one of the last great leading men type, square-jawed actor who existed, with no sense of irony or anything like that. He just, what you saw is what you got. And I love that about him. The issue is that when he was on Dark Shadows, it was not his best work. And we kind of have to hold hands in kumbaya about that. I did something that I regret. And it was not anything involving something done to a homeless drifter or anything like that, by a railroad track. Instead, I was on a podcast and we got talking, and I referred to him as probably the not bestest actor on the series. And that's a really rotten thing to say, because it's the wrong kind of opinion oriented garbage. And I really, really, really regretted that. And so when he passed away, I had to write the obituary. Mm-hmm. And an interesting thing came up, because I learned that Wallace and I have two different philosophies about obituaries. And I wanted to do what I could to make up for that. And it ended up, I think, being one of my favorite pieces of writing over the past few years. I think it was very tight and very good, and I tried to redress that misjudgment.
From a standpoint, you've talked about 2021 has been a big year for Dark Shadows.
Yes.
We've had some downs. We've mentioned our characters passing, our actors passing, and actresses passing, and they had a huge, to me, legacy in the series. I actually did a video with John Philip Betancourt. We did a Barnabas Collins arc, and it was weird because Dana Malaya just died when we did that video, and we held a moment of silence for her. That she
sorry.
We did a moment of silence for her. So we've had our sort of our downs, our losses of these great actors and actresses, but there's been some really great things too for Dark Shadows.
Let's talk about that. So did we say nice things about everyone who passed away before we move on?
Yeah, I think we have.
We got Christopher Pennock, we got Robert Rodin, and we got
Jeffrey
Scott, and I think that was it.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes, let's talk about the good things now.
We had the Dark Shadows cast reunite in the Dark Shadows Christmas Carol, and it was beautiful.
It really was. I mean, that's one of those reasons why I suggested us kind of talking about this, because I'm also doing a write-up for the Collinsport Historical Society website, and that as a capstone, because when I wrote my review, I really was very sincere when I said that it was the best post Dark Shadows production with those people that I have seen. Mm-hmm. And even beyond, I would include the 1991 series, and that just as far as Dark Shadows follow-ups go, it was something really special.
It was. It gave you every bit of goosebump, every bit of chill. The opening was great, fantastic. I love that they use Robert Cobert's music. I love that everybody was cast correctly and their reading was on. They did not miss a beat.
No, they did not. It was masterful. Who gave your favorite performance in it?
I'm gonna be honest with you. All of them. They all just because when they all come on screen, I literally had when I saw David Selby, and I know he's out there doing interviews, and I know James Storm's been out there doing interviews, and a lot of them have been out there doing interviews. But when you see the whole cast come together for something like this, goosebumps had covered my body, and they did not leave my body until well after that was over. And it was just that whole moment was just a goosebump, feel good moment that made me wanted to stand up and shout, yes, yes.
Okay. Wow. What were your thoughts on sort of the other, extra cast members?
I think Ansel and what was the other guy's name?
Alfred.
Alfred. I think they did a good job. Everybody. You have these trained actors who are just golden. Their parts were just perfect. But I think the extras did a good job. Everybody played off each other really great. It went as smooth as butter. Maybe
okay.
smooth. Maybe smoother.
Is there anything you would like to see these people do next year?
Yes, I would love to see them. Maybe you, maybe Ansel, write something for these people and get them to do more stuff like they did in A Christmas Carol. If they are willing to do it, do it.
Do you have a story in mind that you would you'd like to see them take on?
Actually, I would love for them to sort of do, and I know this might sound weird, but maybe Peter Pan.
Okay.
I'd love to see either Peter Pan or why not the Count of Monte Cristo?
Cristo,
sorry.
That's okay. That's a mistake you don't want to make in the wrong neighborhood. You go asking for him, it's going to be a long night. So I found my Marvel Comics Dark Shadows list.
Nice.
May I share it?
Yes, sir.
So this is how if they wanted to do it right, they do this thing. Okay, so Joan Bennett as Galactus, obviously. Joan Bennett is Galactus. Louis Edmonds is the Silver Surfer. Yeah. David Selby, Reed Richards.
Nice.
John Carlin is Johnny Storm.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, he's pretty flammable. That meaning Willie Loomis.
Right.
I'm talking about. Nancy Barrett is Sue Storm. She's perfect. She's got the hair that does that thing. Let's see. I said the caretaker is Willie Lumpkin. And Dan Curtis would be in it as Ben Grimm.
Nice. With
all those teeth. Talking about the Yancey Street Gang and his Aunt Petunia. Jonathan Frid is Dr. Doom.
Yep.
Catherine Lee Scott's Alicia Masters, because Marie Wallace would be Medusa.
Nice.
Humbert Allen Estrada's Doctor Strange. Of course. Don Briscoe is Bruce Banner.
Nice.
Chris Pennock is Hawkeye.
Nice.
Yeah. And then Thayer David, Professor Xavier.
Yes.
There's a bar in San Francisco where if you go into a back room and order something called a bald Thayer, you don't get a drink. And then the Watcher Okay. So Thayer David could also play Kingpin or the Watcher, but you give one or the other to Dana Elcar.
Yeah.
Sheriff Patterson, big and bald, which makes Michael Stroka the John Romita Peter Parker because he's got the bigger hair.
Yeah.
James Storm is Wolverine. Let's see, Dennis Patrick is Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Think about it. Take the mustache off and put the eye patch on him and give him the conspiracy ranting, and he's Nick Fury. Mitch Ryan is Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
Joel Crothers is Tony Stark. And Laura Parker, Dazzler.
Yes. Nice. I like that list, man.
So there.
We've had some. I'm trying to see if
those movies would have been successes if they had done it my way.
I'll tell you another though. It's who would have made a great Shadow or Lamont Cranston would have been Jonathan Frid.
Oh yeah.
You know, he would have knocked that bad. My favorite is Victor Jory's 1940 The Shadow. But if you've ever seen
I went to high school with Victor Jory's granddaughter.
Nice.
True story.
Nice.
True story. True Jory.
Give me 1 second, Patrick. I want to turn on my light because I want to show some things off here.
Okay. I think this is going to be illegal in some states.
Okay, so we had this.
Things to like get you to show more stuff. What's going on?
We had the Jonathan Frid documentary that was released this year. You talk about really, really great. This was really, really great.
And that's another event. And the YouTube event that went with it.
Yeah.
Where the cast members, Laura Parker, I think, was on it, and David Selby, who's just stunning on it. Both of them were just great. And I'm sure someone else was on it, and I forgot. Whoops. Sorry. That movie, I got up at about 4 or 5 in the morning to watch it before I went to work because I wanted to absolutely see what was done. And you know, the one of the reasons why that's so good is not because Barnabas is so interesting, but because Jonathan Frid, and I say this lovingly, is so boring. And by boring, I mean in a Robert Mitchum constantly getting arrested kind of, you know, there's no scandal, no bad habits, you know, you make it. I think I said this before, but you make a documentary about, you know, one of the most famous vampires ever who didn't like horror.
Right.
A stage director who only directed one play, and that's when he was in his 70s, I think. You know, an actor, a Shakespearean actor who actually, by his own admission, didn't act that much Shakespeare, right, and didn't have a desire to, and a sex symbol who had no interest in being. He was the safest sex symbol in town, yeah, because he was the last guy who was going to take advantage of it. Right. So, so you know, if I were a documentarian and you handed me this guy, I'd say, I don't know what to do. And that film was made by people who did know what to do, and they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think the one thing they did really good here too is they got many people on who were around Jonathan, who knew Jonathan, actors. You had Will McKinley, you had Nancy Kersey, you had just so many different people on there who were around.
Who made the movie?
Mary O'Leary, right? Who was. Their words spoke volumes about Jonathan and how amazing of a person he was.
And that's the great part that emerged.
Right. It really did. It's Jonathan Frid, Dark Shadows and Beyond the Dark Shadow story isn't just necessarily about Dark Shadows or to get you into it. It's about acting, and it's something you can walk away from appreciating both acting and this show you may never have heard of.
Yeah.
I think
I showed it to people who didn't know the show Dark Shadows, and they liked it.
Yeah, it just, my wife watched it with me and she goes, wow, this is amazing. They really knew a lot about him. And I said, yeah, I love how they had his letters being read, his letters to his parents. That was amazing. That was really, you felt his words,
Definitely. And I think we were lucky that they weren't being read by Rosie Perez. That's the whole thing. And I'm glad I talked him out of that.
There's another thing I'd like the Dark Shadows cast to do. I would love for them. My favorite story ever is the Three Musketeers. I'd love for them to do the Three Musketeers.
An audio version of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they want a sword fight. I mean, I don't want a sword fight. I can't imagine. Here, Jerry, here's a sword. We'll see you at 6 a.m. for practice. I don't think that would go over well.
No, probably.
I don't think that would go over well, and nor should it. But so who would you cast in that?
I would cast James Storm as D'Artagnan. I would cast David Selby as one of the other Musketeers. What was his name?
Okay, you got a real serious Musketeer. You got the priest Musketeer who's sleeping around, and then you've got the frilly fop Musketeer. So which one?
I would have David Selby as Athos.
So the serious Oliver Reed.
Right. I would have Jerry Lacey as Pathos.
Okay, so you got Athos, you got Porthos.
Porthos. Sorry. I mispronounced it. I'm sorry.
So the fop.
Right.
Okay, and then the skirt chasing priest. Which one is that?
I would try to get the guy who played the original Willie Loomis.
Oh, James Hall.
James Hall, yeah. I would get him to do that, and to get Queen to get the evil woman. I would get lady. I would have it be Alexandra Isles.
Interesting. Okay.
You wanted to do evil? Well, here you go.
I would cast Catherine in the part.
There you go. I like that.
She is so smart,
Yep.
and really, 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 the more chances she gets to display that kind of range, and also I think it's just a part she would have a lot of fun with. And then Laura Parker as Constance.
Yeah.
The love interest.
Yep.
Spoiler alert: who dies? And that's a heck of a moment.
Yep. It's a moment that's always, when it happens, it's translated so well and sad, and you feel it.
What's your favorite version of Three Musketeers?
The 1948 version.
Okay, and that was with William Bendix and Edward Everett Horton and Billy Barty. Who was in that?
Goodness, the lady from let's see, you had Vincent Price was in it.
Okay. You
had I can't think of it. God, I'm gonna kick myself because I see his face, but I can't place his name. Who played D'Artagnan? The guy who was in Singing in the Rain.
Oh, Gene Kelly.
Yeah, Gene Kelly was D'Artagnan.
Oh.
And
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Angela Lansbury was in it.
So this was 1948?
Yes.
So Angela Lansbury, she'd been retired for how many years by then? Anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
I own this movie on Blu-ray, and I love it. I watch it every summer. It's a movie that I enjoy immensely. Every scene is excitement and fun, and when they get to those moments of passion or just the death of Constance, it is heartfelt and
Now, have you seen the Richard Lester Three Musketeers and Four Musketeers with Oliver Reed and Michael York?
I'm not sure.
Cool. You're gonna have a new favorite Three Musketeers. I'm serious. They are. I think they're two of the best movies ever made.
Is that? I'm sorry. Is that the one where I think Joan Bennett's in one of them, or Man in the Iron Mask or something?
There's Man in the Iron Mask. That's like in the 40s.
Right.
No, the 1970s.
Okay, the 1970s. Okay.
Yeah, it's got Basil Exposition as D'Artagnan.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really good. Charlton Heston plays Richelieu.
Oh wow.
The villain, and he's fantastic.
I will give it a watch.
He has one line in the movie that's just great. He just says, "Come to me, little man." Yeah. And you realize Heston is the best villain in Hollywood.
Yeah. The Three Musketeers has always been fun and exciting to me. I'm sort of torn between the 90s version of it, the 1990s version. It's
do it to yourself. Don't do it. Let yourself. I promise. We do a whole podcast on the 1970s Three Musketeers and Four Musketeers, which are really one movie that got split up. Mm-hmm. Jewel, do yourself a favor. It's really good. It's really good.
I got to turn my light back on. I have one more thing to show. Hold on.
Okay. It's not that tattoo you told me about.
No, it's not. It's not.
And Joan Bennett dead. Okay.
It's way better. If you have not gotten into Dark Shadows and you don't want to watch it, something that can get you into it is that man's book, The Dark Shadows Day book. This thing is worth going to go pick up and check out. It came out this year, Patrick.
It did.
So,
did you get to read it?
Huh? Did I read it? I'm not sure if I read it or not, Doc. No. Yeah, I read it. I read it.
Have you heard from anyone who's read it? Have you had any conversations with anyone else who's read it?
I've seen so many people post on groups about how they read it, and people have said they enjoyed it. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed it, and that's pretty much all they say. Me personally, I love to read. The first thing I ever read when I was a kid was The Three Musketeers. So I love reading. So when somebody hands me something to read, it's like, oh, great. Unless it's that James Patterson, The Shadow reboot, that piece of shit.
I smell it. How was it? I take it you didn't.
Patrick, I'm glad you're sitting down, by the way, for this. He turned the Shadow into a house cat.
This interview's done. Why did he turn him into a cat? Was he like a cat man? He could transform into a cat.
Okay, you know how the Shadow wore the brim down hat, the cloak. Yeah. He took away all that. That was a myth.
Okay.
The menacing laugh. Oh, that was a myth. The dual revolvers. Oh, he never carried a gun.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So when I say that book sucked, it sucked.
Okay.
It sucked.
Okay.
But
well, he probably studied a lot from Seth Grahame-Smith and his adaptation of Dark Shadows. Anyway.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Okay. There is in the daybook, by the way, in I think one of the very first 1970, when they get back, the Ragnarok, one of the very first Ragnarok pieces, there's a long riff on Three Musketeers. When Barnabas announces he's back from parallel time, I said when he bounds into the drawing room, it sounds like he's talking about, we've got to stop Richelieu and the machinations and so on and so forth. So yeah, there is that spirit. We're still working on Dark Shadows audiobook, daybook audiobook. At this point, I'm not really sure if it should be like an audiobook for the daybook and then an audiobook for the next daybook, which is right now I call Daybook After Dark. Oh my God, I just killed it. Jewel, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, good. I don't know how you do this with these YouTube things, but I have to switch to a different device or find a power cord.
Okay.
So, but you can still hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Well, then we'll keep prattling on. I think I can MacGyver a solution to this. So,
what's your favorite out of this year so far? What's your favorite moment for Dark Shadows?
My favorite moment for Dark Shadows, just as an institution, as a franchise.
Yes.
I would say The Christmas Carol, without a doubt. I think that's a huge deal, and I am, and I'll stay by that. I think it was a chance to see this ensemble one more time.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, when a show's been over for 50 years, any chance that these guys get together could be the last.
Yep.
That they get together in that configuration. I mean, you know, because they did this for the first time last year with just the general Zoom thing, which sounds like it's Kryptonian, and you know, Chris Pennock is not with us in that. So that definitely, you know, bringing back Mitch Ryan and Alexander Moltke and David Hennessy, was that was a thing. It's a, you know, as I say in Boogie Nights, it's a real film, Jack. So that would be my favorite. What about you? And then I have a couple of other publishing questions or publishing things to bring up.
Okay. To me, in order, Dark Shadows: A Christmas Carol, because that moment to me is still the biggest goosebump moment, because we haven't heard anything about the, you know, potential new series yet.
Right.
To me, Jonathan for the documentary and obviously the day book, I think those things are just really cool for a fan. Speaking as a DS fan, those things are just really cool moments that give you goosebumps and they're fun to go check out. So,
I would very proudly agree. In addition to all of this, there is some new Dark Shadows book coming out that, do you know, I think Marie Wallace did the foreword to it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
Well, it's I'm trying to look it up right now, and it's basically memories of people who grew up watching Dark Shadows.
Cool.
And from what I understand, and I wanted to try and find it and give a plug to it, because it's a book I'd very much like to read. And then we had yet another Dark Shadows book, my Memoirs of the Dark Shadows Conventions by Anthony Taylor.
Cool.
So literary license, and their podcast has had some tremendous guests. And I think they deserve a shout out. Yep. And the thing about this year is that and I think Tubi, I think it showed up on Tubi this year, maybe. The thing about this year that was so important in Dark Shadows for me collectively is that not only was it a tremendously robust year, but it was a year where everything, excluding the Jonathan Frid documentary, was done guerrilla style.
Right.
It was done by fans, or it was done by actors who chose on their own to team together and put something on. I know there was a sort of a mini convention in Essex, Connecticut that Catherine Lee Scott helped to organize, be a part of, that went around to the original shooting locations. So yeah, there was a convention this year. But all of this stuff existed out of love. It existed out of love. And Joel, we can't let this go by without talking about how prodigious you have been this year in providing an energetic voice for the series. Also, I think that can't be underestimated.
I just love talking about it. That's all. And I love bringing people on who love talking about it. So, and I'll continue to do that, not just this year, obviously, because we're over it, but next year. So I'm going to line up a bunch of guests, you included, my friend.
Anytime. I'm happy to do it.
So, I mean, so 2022 is going to be upon us. What do you hope for Dark Shadows in the future?
Oh, well, I mean, I hope for more of good everything.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's the biggest thing I can say. If I wanted to be cynical, which I don't want to be, but I'm often forced by reality to be, what I hope in 2022 is that we don't get a bad remake of
right.
the series. That we either get a great remake or no remake, but that we don't necessarily go down that road. I think it's if nothing happens next year, it'll be okay. I can tell you one thing on my wish list, though, that I really hope somebody at MPI, maybe, you know, checks an email or something. They put the first volume of Dark Shadows on iTunes.
Yeah.
A long time ago. Nothing more. And as a major iTunes shopper, I'll tell you, you kind of see the same series after a while, and it would be nice to get something there. So yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
I hope if we don't get the new series next year, to any fan in the sound of my voice, do a podcast, open your own channel, talk about the thing you love, this product, because we all love it. You know, for whether, you know, Dark Shadows is something I want more fans to open up about. And that's something I want more out of fans. And I hope, I cross my fingers that we are going to get a new series. But
a good
new series. Yes, yeah. Sir. A good new series.
Mr. Patrick. Yeah.
Yep. Patrick, is there anything you want to add, man?
Shop smart, shop smart.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Patrick, man, I want you to have a happy new year. Have a happy, safe new year. God bless you, man. Thank you for your time tonight.
Absolutely.
But guys, there will be many links in the description box for the Dark Shadows Daybook, the Jonathan Fred documentary, the Literary License podcast. Shout out to them. They'll get a link in the description for their channel. Everybody have a happy new year. Patrick, good night, man.
Good night.
Bye-bye.